Welcome to the Toyota Solutions studio. I'm so pleased to welcome a terrific filmmaker, an Oscar-winning filmmaker, Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, whose documentary film about honor killings, A Girl in the River, won an Academy Award, and it was her second. Sharmeen, this is the second time I've had the pleasure of speaking to you. It's great to have you here in the studio. I want to start out by talking about that film, which received critical global praise. It was about honor killings in your home country of Pakistan. I wonder what you feel the impact of your film has been on policy and on opinions in your country.
Well, honor killings was an issue that very few people wanted to talk about. And one woman's courage, Saba, the main protagonist in my film, her courage to want to tell her story inspired an entire country to begin talking about that issue. Sometimes it just takes one singular courageous voice to change the tide. And you would find that our nightly news, editorials in newspapers, radio shows were dedicated to the issue of honor killing. And she also inspired the Prime Minister to push through legislation that was critical to making sure that the perpetrators of honor killings do not walk free.
It is extraordinary that your film and telling that woman's story actually led to that kind of tangible change. What is next for you? What change do you want to see in Pakistan that might be informing and inspiring your current work?
I think that we need more role models. Young women today need to see those kick-ass women, to know that they are breaking barriers, to know that they're not taking no for an answer, to know that they are affecting change. When you have role models like that, you have the courage to walk in their shoes. And my films these days are shedding light on women like that. Women who are risking their lives for their communities, for the next generation. Simply women who are saying, you know what, we have had enough. We know what our rights are, we are going to grab those rights, and we are going to do something about them. And I think that once I shed light on those kind of women, hopefully it'll inspire a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old to say, you know what, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to do exactly what I have seen this woman do.
How did that energy for women's equality start for you?
I just took equality for granted. I didn't know that I was not equal to a man. When you are a 10, 12-year-old girl, I mean, unless someone says that to you, you just think the world is the same. You go out and play, the boys go out and play. You go to school, the boys go to school. When you don't get good grades, your dad says something to you. The boys' dads also say something to them. So, I never thought that there was something that was different.
In your home, you were not treated any differently.
We were 5 daughters.
Wow.
My brother was born much later, and my father would refer to us as his sons. I just assumed that's what the world around me was. I mean, I was his son.
But he would call you his son?
Yeah, he would. But then when I became about 14, 15 years old and I wanted to stay out at night, my dad would be like, no, you have to be home. And I'd be like,
that's my daughter.
And then I'd be like, but the boys can stay out. And he'd be like, but you're not a boy. And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There is a difference.
Okay.
I think that once I realized what the difference was, I also realized, to be honest, that I was very lucky. I was very, very lucky that I was in a family that got me an education, allowed me to speak my mind, allowed me to work. But millions of other women in my country do not have the same rights, even though the law gives them the right.
No, so what is that about? Dig in a little deeper. Why is that? Is that a matter, is that a socioeconomic gap? Is it an education gap? Is it a rural versus urban educated gap? What's happening there in Pakistan that there are women that come out like you who believe in liberation, believe in reform, and then women that are subject to honor killings?
The thing is that in any country, you can have let's look at the United States. I mean, you have women who are the highest levels of corporate America
yeah.
or in politics, and then you have a woman in the south side of Chicago, and she's the victim of domestic violence.
Right.
The one thing that unites women around the world is that women regardless of their race, regardless of their color, regardless of their religion, are subjected to some form of harassment or violence around the world. You know, it might be glossed up here in the West, but it exists, and it's very much there. And so the thing about Pakistan is that the laws support women. We have some very, very strong laws. But we are a patriarchal, conservative society where men want to control women because that's the way of life that they have known. And my grandmother's generation would bow down to it. My mother's generation sometimes would say something, but very rarely. My generation is not going to bow down to it, and my daughter's generation is certainly not going to bow down to it. So I think the change is coming. The world is influencing Pakistan in very many ways. China has an enormous influence in Pakistan. We share a long border with China. China has a lot of investments in Pakistan. Cell phone penetration, cheap Chinese Androids are making their way across Pakistan. 80% of Pakistan, we're a country of over 200 million people. We're the 5th most populous country in the world, has access to cell phones. And when you have access to a cell phone, the world opens up to you. And so women...
So you're saying these women are actually getting more access to sort of the globalized women's movement?
Absolutely. And also on television. You know, I grew up in Pakistan with one television channel, state-owned, filtered news. We have 42 television channels now. You can no longer hide anything. And so women, when they put on television at 8 p.m. and watch a soap opera, while they may see women getting beaten in a soap opera, might see them being subjugated as well, because all kinds of stories are shared, they also have women who are empowered, who go to work, who speak their minds, and they're like, we share the same geography, yet I don't have those rights. So, you know what? If I want to fall in love, I will fall in love. If I want to go to school, I will go to school. And that's why one of the things that's happening in Pakistan is that the level of violence against women is going up. And, you know, it is going up because women are asking and demanding for the rights, and men don't know how to handle it. So there is a blowback and a pushback. And they say that if we beat the women and make them fall in line, it'll be an example to the next woman not to ask. But what they're forgetting is that how many women are they going to beat into submission? You cannot beat 50% of 200 million women into submission. That's just not going to happen. The maths, the economics, none of that supports them.
Yeah. And you really can't keep women silent no matter how much you try to beat us. That's one of the solutions that's come up, though, a lot in my conversations in this studio, is that men have to be part of the movement.
Oh, absolutely.
How is that going in Pakistan?
You know, so you have a lot of men who support women. Let's talk about a household. You have many fathers who are encouraging their daughters to go to school, encouraging them to work. But there are also silos. You know, it's not this, there is this mentality in Pakistan about what are the neighbors going to say if I do this or if my daughter does that. There's a lot of societal family pressure because we're still very much a family you know, kind of oriented, joint family system society. We're not like the West. We're not like individuals who go off and make our life. It's like, you know, children go to college and come back and live with their parents. You know, they get married, they make a section of a parent's house and live with them. The nuclear family system is only just beginning to emerge in Pakistan. And so you know that, you know, you're not just having to seek permission from your husband for something, but your father-in-law is watching, your brother-in-law is watching, they all judge. That's why it is much harder there to bring about change. But I have worked with and met so many young women in Pakistan who are not afraid to ask, who are not afraid to say, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to find a way to work it out.
There are so many sort of harrowing stories that you've told in your work, and there are a lot of negative stories that come out of Pakistan. Tell me something you love about your country and about the family value, something you cherish.
Pakistan is known for its hospitality. Also, one of the things that people don't know about Pakistan is that it is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. From its gorgeous mountain range down to the stunning beaches with turquoise water that we have. And if you ask anybody that has ever traveled to Pakistan, they will tell you that they're the warmest, most hospitable people they have met in the world. And that is something that I value and cherish a lot about my country. It's its people. And it's the people that I make films about. It's the people that give me the courage to make the films about, because I want to make sure that Pakistan and the next generation, the country they inherit, is a country that they can be proud of.
What gives you the courage to continue to make these films? I imagine that it is a risk to you to do so, especially because you are shooting the films in Pakistan.
You know, I think that when you believe so passionately about telling the truth, about making sure that a society looks at its reflection and does something about it if it sees an ugly side to it, I think that you just keep your concentration on that, you drown out all of those other voices around you. I want to look back at my life, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and I want to say that something I did changed the lives of other people. And I think that that's the legacy I want to leave my daughters. That's the legacy I want to leave Pakistan. And I want other women, maybe 20, 30 years from now, to be sitting in a place just like this and saying, you know what, my mother and my grandmother did something. That is why I am sitting here today.
Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, such an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.